Hi, this is Doreen Milano. Welcome to Big Ideas Small Business, where we will be talking to Teri Karjala with Talking with Teri. We'll be right back.
You're tuned into Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano. Doreen brings energy, focus, and creativity with the most cutting-edge tools and systems needed to grow business, drive profits, and achieve dreams. Ready to rise? Here's your host, Doreen Milano.
Welcome, Teri. I'm so glad you're here.
I know. I'm so excited. Thank you for having me here.
This is really great. Now, Teri has Talking with Teri, and her expertise is talking to female entrepreneurs through some of the things that stop them cold.
Yes.
Now, being a woman in business, there were lots of things that I had to get over, learn differently, be able to transcend, just to be able to be an executive in the corporate world. When you're a woman in business, you still have those challenges, right?
Agreed, yes.
And how do they show up in your clients?
Yeah, so I, just a little about kind of my background and training and everything. So I was, very early on, I was a therapist, and I grew a company, and then that company has become owner independent, and then that allowed me to step into what you're talking about, is really working with entrepreneurs. And so I've taken my 24 years of counseling experience, combined it with energy psychology, and then applied the principles of quantum physics to help women entrepreneurs. And
that is so fascinating.
Yeah, and so I feel really called to do this work. And now, you're absolutely right. So, anytime we are taking on a journey of opening a business, whether that be a small business, a medium-sized business, or even growing it to be a large business, we tend, and I truly believe that one of the biggest mistakes that we make is getting ourselves in the way of our own success story. And that comes back to our mindset. And so, the women entrepreneurs that I work with, whether they have small, mid, or large businesses, is like, take a look at what is getting in the way of them creating a really successful business for themselves.
Well, that even happens when you transition from, let's say, a smaller role into a much bigger role within the same company. We still run into those very blockages that we would run into if we were creating a business.
Yes. Well, and I literally was talking at a women's event earlier today to a lady that we were talking about, even in the next level of our business, like how the imposter syndrome, or how those limiting beliefs, or how the self-sabotage can jump in at any point, in any trigger.
Yes.
And it could really have an impact on us. And what happens is, for a lot of folks, is that we will, our brains are brilliant, okay? And so whatever story that we're leading with, whatever that looks like for us, our brain will go seek out evidence to either support that story or not support that story. And so if I have positive thoughts will find positive evidence, negative thoughts will find a negative evidence. And so if I feel like, if I'm going into that little imposter syndrome going, gosh, who am I? I can't be doing this. What happens is those thoughts come in, they connect with the reticular activation system. That part of the brain actually scans our environment looking for evidence, and once it finds the evidence that it wants and needs and looks and clasps onto, we will then find ourselves going into the spiral. And then we're finding more and more evidence to support whatever that story is. And these are unconscious stories. These are stories that usually they can get boiled down to, I'm not something enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. Who am I? That I'm not enough.
Not enough value, not enough to say, not enough to be able to
not
uplift
enough education,
ourselves.
not enough expertise, like not enough. And so and what happens is when we slump down into that, we go down from an energetic perspective. I was just speaking to, the producer of this show and talking about, how we can get in that trap. and how we can, from a vibrational standpoint, then we're not living our best lives. We're not living our best self. And I truly believe that if we have a message, if we have, something here to do, if we have a body, we have work to do.
If we exist,
we have work to do. And I think it's our obligation as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, to really look at what are we being called to do? What is that? What are we here to do? And what are we here to deliver? And how do we step into that? And and I love talking about having an impact, and whether that impact is, 5 people or 50 people or 500 million people, like, it is our duty. And if we are not, and if we are allowing ourselves to get trapped in those stories and those, self-sabotaging and limiting beliefs, we're not here serving.
well, I think there's another level to this, Teri.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that our friend group,
Yes.
those people that are close to us, sometimes are the reason that we get stuck,
Yes.
because we don't want to be disloyal, because we don't want to turn our backs on the people that we've known for so long. And sometimes those people are those negative influences that are keeping us grounded in the negative rather than the positive.
Yeah. They always say that spend the most time with those, those people that are where you'd like to be. And there's reason for that, right? Because you're always, allowing yourself to level up to the next level, right? And so if you have anyone that is, I call them the dream stealers, but these can be silent dream stealers too. I actually,
Absolutely.
in the last 2 years, I had someone that was a silent dream stealer, and I didn't realize that until, some things came to my awareness, and I was like, oh. And as soon as I was able to let that relationship go, it was amazing how my business just went on this whole new level, because I was able to there was someone actually was talking poorly about behind my back and not supportive, but to my face, it was a different thing. So I highly recommend, to the listeners, take an inventory of who you surround yourself with, who you're spending the most time with. Are they your biggest cheerleaders? And, and even the craziest ideas. Like, a lot of times, I've gotten this nickname crazy from my family, Crazy Aunt Teri. And they're like, because you're always thinking about different things in a different way. And one time I was taking offense to this. And I was like, okay, why do you call me Crazy Aunt Teri? And they said, well, because you're trying new things, you're doing this, you're doing that. I was like, okay, I'm going to own that, because I'm not going the status quo. But, and so when I bring ideas to my team or something, and they're like, okay, that's a little out there, but.
So you're outside the box. You're not stuffed in the box, which is a good thing, right? And at the same time, depending on who those people that you surround yourself are, they can kind of take the wind out of the sails, so to speak.
1,000%. I mean, they can influence your choices, they can influence your attitude, everything. And so, making sure that you have an incredible team that is here to build you up. And when you have those moments of self-doubt and you have what am I doing? That they're there, and that these are my go-to team to really help support you.
Well, one of the things I found in my career path is, number one, you've got to have thick skin.
Yes.
You cannot have thin skin and worry about what everybody else says and worry about, whether you're approved of and all these other things. You've got to just go for it and take the reins and have some fun. But the other thing I think that is really important is be conscious of individuals who are actually jealous.
Yeah.
That they're working in the background to just undermine who you are, where you're going, what your focus is. If you have somebody in your life that you're not going to share everything with, think twice about whether they're really your friend.
Yeah.
And they're really your support system.
Yeah,
right?
I agree with you.
So that can be a real problem. So when we're talking about this, we've got just a minute here. Number one thing that we should be on the lookout for as female entrepreneurs.
for female entrepreneurs, I'm going to say that little voice. Like, what is that voice saying to us? Because, you know, we can retrain that voice to support us and build us up versus, you know, it having a mind of its own and taking us off our game. And so, you know, just paying attention to what is that voice telling us and how do we support that?
That's a great, great tip. We will be right back right after this.
What does it mean to devote your life to the truth? Does it mean investigating communist subversion here in America? Does it mean exposing the deadly fentanyl crisis in the Midwest? We're spending late nights and covering deep government corruption? Does it mean persevering over 20 years, even after 4 masked men set one of our printing presses on fire last year? Because at a time when America's traditional values are under attack, it's the responsibility of righteous journalists to uphold truth and tradition.
Business runs on technology, and human beings are creatures of habit. Unfortunately, not all our habits are good. Technology, when it works, is supposed to make our lives easier, creating routines that allow us to protect customer data, track our progress, forecast the future, communicate better, and move much faster. So, you need technology solutions that work when you're not working, or simply not paying attention. Smart technology solutions, making the complicated uncomplicated.
Hi, we're back with Teri Karjala, and we're talking with Teri right now.
It's right now.
This is awesome. So Teri, as we move through the process of understanding who we are as entrepreneurs, understanding what our business is, how we connect with our people, how we deliver not only our message, but our product.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes the product is speaking. Sometimes the product is a TV show. Sometimes the product is, you know, a book. You know, whatever it is that we've created that we want to share with the world. What is the number one thing besides our little voice that we have got to be willing to step out of our comfort zone to create?
Yeah, I think it goes back to, you know, I truly believe that if we silence our minds enough and we go deep within, all of us has this inner knowing, this inner calling, if you will. And sometimes we are too overwhelmed by all the noise of social media, the noise of, you know, the day-to-day operations. If we just can turn down the noise and really tap into what is it that I am here to do? What going back to our purpose, like what is it that I'm being called to do? And really identifying, okay, what is that piece? Because once we get clear with that, okay, we can then say, okay, here's my target. And I love helping women entrepreneurs. Like one is like, how do we clear those blocks that are holding us back? Okay.
Yep.
I usually say that there's like these top 5 blocks that are holding entrepreneurs back. How do we clear those blocks? And then the second thing
So the top 5 are what?
Those are limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, getting stuck in fear, and then the imposter syndrome, and getting overwhelmed and burnt out. And so those are the biggest top blocks that I find, you know, entrepreneurs facing. And then the second piece is like, okay, and I teach women entrepreneurs all the time, is how do they tap into universal laws, if you will, so that they can be generating more income, more clients, more impact in their business by utilizing energy, which is something very different in the entrepreneur world. But I truly believe that we can have an easier time and create more ease. So again, going back and saying, you know, what is what I'm being called to do? How do we get there in that piece? Like, what are the challenges and the blocks and barriers that's holding me back? And let's clear those so that we can step into that power, step into what we're doing here. And And you were saying that, what was your question? Number one.
The number one block that we have is the little voice.
Yeah.
But the number one thing where we have to step out of our comfort zone, because we can't deliver what it is we need to deliver staying okay and comfortable in our space. We have to be willing to step out, right?
Yes. And stepping into that power, but also, it's trusting ourselves. I think, trusting that we know, because so often we'll go into that self-doubt, and so just allowing ourselves to trust that we're making and taking action, right? We can talk about energy, we can talk all of this, but I truly believe that attraction follows action. And so when
action trumps everything else.
Yes. And so we have got to stay in action. And whether it's just one little step, one little task that we can do to keep moving forward, and and taking risks. And I always, when we talk about stepping out of our comfort zone, if our
that's
comfort
always
zone,
a risk, right?
Yeah, if our comfort zone is here, and a big comfort, something that's really intense is out here, I don't recommend us going and jumping. Now that's taking a leap of faith, and I'm a big full-on believer of taking a leap of faith, but for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's too risky. And so instead, they're like, oh, that's too far out there, so I'm not going to do anything. But what we can do is say, what's one thing that's outside that comfort zone that we can get to that place right there? And if we expand it, right? And if we take some smaller steps, pretty soon we're going to be at that big, kind of, as they call it, the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious, goal, right? We're going to be there. And the more risks that we are willing to take to get out of our comfort zone, the easier it becomes. I remember when I was expanding one of my businesses, I went in and I was like, oh, this is really nerve-wracking. I'm going to, triple my space. From this, small area to this large area, and it seemed so daunting. And I'd take pictures, and I would go in there, and I asked my husband, and I had him come and look at it 3 times, and I talked to them, and it was terrifying. And then I took the leap, and then I expanded again. And then the second time I was like, oh, I went in, I did my little, test that I do when I'm, purchasing new space, and it was easier. And then the third time, we're now
piece of cake, right?
It was a piece of cake, and we ended up having $100,000 build out for the company. And I was like, oh, I should probably tell my husband that I'm doing this, right? Because I wasn't even like, oh yeah, this is like no big deal, right? And so the more that we can train our brains, we become more expansive. And when we become more expansive, we're going to be opening ourselves up to more possibilities and more opportunities that are coming our way, and it becomes easier. We don't have to get stuck in and addicted to the struggle, because I think a lot of folks have gotten attached to it being a struggle. It's got to
be hard.
It has to be hard, and it has to be a struggle.
It has to be really hard. If we are not breaking our backs making money, it's not worth it, right?
That's
Wrong.
a great story.
It's a great story. It's not the truth.
Yes.
It's not the truth.
Yes.
We can actually make money with ease if we're willing to step outside of our comfort zone.
Yes.
Stepping outside of the comfort zone is the reason this show exists.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It was the middle of the pandemic, and I don't talk about the pandemic a lot, but in the middle of the pandemic, I lost a lot of my customers because my client base was service-based industries, and they really took it hard during the pandemic. And I said, I still need to reach these people. How am I going to reach them in a way that is going to be meaningful? And then I met Susan, and I started the TV show, and I said, this is how I can reach my client base without them having to engage me monetarily to start with, until they've rebuilt their war chests and they can afford me.
Yeah.
Right? So when we're talking about stepping out of the comfort zone, sometimes it's a big leap, like putting your name on the middle of a TV show.
Right.
Sometimes it's a little thing like redoing your brochure so it makes more sense to your clients.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it is engaging someone like Teri to actually walk you through the process. Because sometimes the process is so terrifying that you won't do it without support.
Well, and I think that's an incredible statement, because like I think sometimes we, as an entrepreneur, we think we're the Lone Rangers. We have this like little Lone Ranger mask, and we're like, I'm going to do this by myself.
But you still need Tonto.
And and here's the thing: is like, if we, yes, we could probably get there by ourselves. It's just it's a harder, longer, process,
road, yes.
right? Versus, pulling in the support team and getting there faster with quick, better results, right? And so, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to get support, because a lot of times I find women just on this this hamster wheel, and every year it's like, okay, this is my story this year, and then I check back in with them a year later. They're still in the same place. They haven't had a bigger impact.
They haven't broken through and had that transformational incident.
Yes.
Right? Because a transformation is an incident. It is a thing that happens.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And they keep thinking that just doing it themselves, they will transform.
Yeah. And a lot of times, if we could, we would have done it. I truly believe that if we could do it by ourselves, we would have done it, right? We would have been like, okay, I got the missing link, I got the missing combination, I got all the pieces. Now, I got all the pieces, and I'm doing it, right? But I think that sometimes, going back to the the stories that we tell ourselves are more powerful. I mean, we're talking about unconscious and subconscious programming.
Well, they're belief systems, right?
Yes, absolutely. And so when we talk about, you and I are having this conversation, and so we're having a conscious conversation right now, and we're activating about 10%, 8 to 10% of our brain, right? But we have now this other 90% that's going from, unconscious and subconscious stories. And so it's kind of like the NASDAQ ticker where it never shuts off. It's constantly going. And most of that is made up with negative, stories. And so what happens is we start to have the same thoughts day in and day out. And so it keeps us from really taking, and going back to what you were talking about earlier, is that it keeps us from really stepping out into the comfort zone. It keeps us playing safe. It keeps us playing small. It keeps us in the same spot,
Lockdown.
Yes, lockdown.
So we're going to stop right here, and we will be back in just a moment to finish this conversation with Teri Karjala of Talking with Teri.
My American dream is to help you stay healthy and energized so you can live your American dream.
Our American dream is equipping future generations of American dreamers.
My American dream is to protect my community so they can live their American dream.
My American dream is to bring you some spice and flavor to your life.
Our American dream is ensuring what's most valuable to you.
Our American dream is creating opportunities for healthcare providers so they can have their American dreams.
My American dream is serving our business community and advocating for all of your American dreams.
Business runs on technology, and human beings are creatures of habit. Unfortunately, not all our habits are good. Technology, when it works, is supposed to make our lives easier, creating routines that allow us to protect customer data, track our progress, forecast the future, communicate better, and move much faster. So, you need technology solutions that work when you're not working, or simply not paying attention. Smart technology solutions, making the complicated uncomplicated.
Hi, Teri. Welcome back. So what I would really like to talk about is one of your clients, one of the most interesting stories you have for your clients of overcoming and having transformation.
Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking of several now. One of my clients. Actually, I'm gonna share one of my clients where she had a business, and actually, what she was doing was she was doing two things. She was running two businesses, and she was getting these two businesses off the ground. And what I tell people all the time, that I was like, you got to pick one. You got to pick one, and once it becomes owner independent, fine. have another, right? Like for the serial entrepreneurs. And I think that's some feedback that people have a hard time hearing about. And so she had these two things. I said, pick one. And within, it was a 6-month period of time, we got her up and running, but she had this powerful story that she kind of created this glass ceiling for herself, where she's like, I can't make past this amount of money. And so when we cleared that piece out, I am happy to inform you that as of today, she has now expanded her team to 4 other folks running her team. And we're now transitioning her to make it to where it's going into owner independence. And the power of owner independence is because, as entrepreneurs, we have our hats on many different things.
Absolutely.
And now she is staying in the CEO. She's staying in the CEO role. And one of the things that she loves doing is going out and collaborating and kind of going into the sales piece. And so now she gets to focus her time in that, because now she's created a team that can run the company for herself.
Isn't that fabulous?
It's powerful, but she had this belief that she couldn't get there. She had this belief that I'm not enough. And as soon as she would hit that one mark, and I call it the capacity, she would hit that capacity to be able to grow her business, and she would ultimately sabotage what was going on to bring her back down. And she had done this for years and years and years. And as soon as we got her clear, we got her like, hey, this is what needs to happen. I mean, she was able to, really
step into it.
And now the problem, I always like create a problem for my clients. And now is like, she gets to now hire more staff to come in and help her so that she can stay in her zone of brilliance.
Is that really a problem, though?
It's a problem in the sense that, I know, right?
It's not a problem. It's not a problem.
Growth is not a problem, but now she gets to...
It's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity, but now she gets to do what she feels called to do. And what I call the zone of genius, she gets to stay in her zone of genius instead of doing all these other tasks that was taking her out of it. And so now she's like, in alignment with this, and now even more and more creative ideas are happening. She's expanding, and now she's like even looking at other streams of income that go into the business so that she doesn't have to effort as much, right? It's like going to be a done for you sort of thing and then another product line that's just going to help support her. And this is where business ownership can get really juicy. Instead of getting stuck in, working, in your business day to day and working on your business.
I call it the minutia. Getting buried in minutia.
And now working on your business. And you know what? Now she can have a bigger impact. And now she's servicing, all across the nation. Whereas before she was kind of restricted to just this kind of like this one niche area. And now she's having
That's awesome.
a much more impact on her business.
So we have a couple minutes left.
Yes.
What I would really love is for the audience to know where to find you, how to find you, and how to engage.
Yes, I think the best way for anyone to reach out to me is go to www.talkingwithteri, that's TERI.com. You'll find all my social media links, and all of it is there for you. So that's the best and easiest way to connect with me.
And who is your best client?
My ideal best client is anyone, women entrepreneurs that are being challenged by unconscious limiting beliefs that are holding themselves back, and they know it, and they haven't yet figured out, how do I allow myself to really step into my power, into my brilliance, into my potency, and really create the business of my dreams, and have a bigger impact in the world. So
those are really impactful words. Potency, power. I mean, if we are not stepping into our potency and our power, what are we doing?
Yes. And we all know it.
That's a real question for all of us to answer internally. And then when you get the answer, call Teri.
That's right. Reach out to me. I'd love to connect.
Thank you. That's it for Big Ideas Small Business. I'm Doreen Milano. I am a business coach and a TV show host. We'd love to talk to you. And if you want to join us in the studio audience, please send me an email. You can reach me at v2e.biz and at 650-483-5798. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. The fact is, business has changed. Engagement has changed. And for us to recover our businesses and our communities, we have to engage differently. If you want to have a serious conversation about engagement, community, and your business, call me. Doreen Milano, Visions to Excellence. I'm an executive coach. You can reach me at 650-483-5798 or contact me online at v2e.biz. That's capital V, number 2, e.biz. Let's have a conversation.
This has been Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano. Doreen Milano solves problems for small and mid-market family-owned businesses and service-based industries. To work with Doreen, go to v2e.biz. For guest and sponsorship information, call 650-483-5798. Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano is produced by Offbeat Business Media for the OBBM Network. For OBBM Network programming information, call 214-714-0495. Unauthorized use of any part of Big Ideas Small Business with Doreen Milano without prior permission through the OBBM Network is strictly prohibited.